So welcome back to Minus 16, another episode of the podcast. And as you can see, I'm with another creator, Alex. Thank you for letting me into your studio and spending some time with me today.
Thanks for coming and thanks for having me.
Yeah. It's wonderful. Well, as you know, I'm trying to get out and meet creators. It's so much nicer to actually be with people. We get locked behind screens far too much, and it's just great to sit down. And we're going to talk about Alex's journey, how you found YouTube, and your journey so far as a creator, and how life's going for you, and what your plans are for the future. But
how long have we got?
We've got as long as we need. That's the beauty of it.
Awesome.
And from Brazil. So obviously you came over here as a younger man. And what was it about England that enticed you to want to come here in the first place?
I tried to go to America first and didn't work out. That was my first option. No, honestly,
so we're second best.
Yeah, it was a weird time to go anywhere actually, because it was during that time after September 11 all that, so it was really hard to travel. But yeah, so England, it's always attracted me, and I came here initially to learn English, and as you can see, it didn't work out. As you can hear, and one thing led to another. I met my then girlfriend, and we went back to Brazil together for a bit, and then came back as a partnership, and became 2 years later we were married, and here we are with got family here.
And how long have you been over in the UK for now?
21 years now, yeah.
So talking before we start recording, I know you said you started off living in London, and now we're sort of in Gloucestershire, a beautiful part of the world. It's lovely. It's about sort of an hour and a half from where I live. And as I was driving down, the air suddenly started to get cleaner and fresh. It's a beautiful place to live in.
Lovely place, especially in the autumn right now. It's a very, very green area. And, we're here because we want to look after our family in a bigger space. Our flat in London, it's officially a 2-bedroom flat, but it was actually a 1.5.
Yeah, I know what city in London in particular is like for saying 2-bed. It's not the truth necessarily.
It's a bedroom and a cupboard that looked like a bedroom. So so we came here. Also, needed a garden. We got a dog now, and it just made a lot more sense as well with the world changing and being able to work remotely. We love it here now.
And reading your website, clearly tech has been something you've been passionate about for a long time. So we'll get around to the channel in a few moments' time. But before the channel, what's your career path been? And has it been in the tech world of any kind?
Yeah, career-wise, that's what I do still today. I'm a tech consultant. Not exactly the same tech, but more kind of in the corporate world.
So what would that, just briefly, what sort of work would that entail then as a tech IT consultant?
So if you think about, I don't know, a good example might be a retail shop trying to sell stuff online. So the website where they sell things online, I need to get the products in there. I need to get, the customer information in there, the payment details in there. So it's designing that before it becomes a thing. So I do that for quite a few companies, not just in e-commerce type things, but in any corporate system, usually involving big systems.
So then at the moment, I'd be right in thinking you're running 2 jobs, running 2 gigs side by side.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think YouTube, if I was to kind of put a percentage, YouTube probably takes 20 to 30% of my time on a weekly basis, including weekends. And my other gig is pretty much 9 to 5 every single day.
So the channel's a couple of years old. What was it that made you, what was the crystallizing moment when you thought, that's me, I want to dip my toes into the muddy waters of YouTube?
It was a combination of things. I think the first one is I've always been keen to, I'm a gadget person. I always like to buy the latest gadgets and just play with it. And
it's a terrible disease, isn't it?
I get really excited about really silly stuff, right? And my friends and my family always, they always said to me, because they come to me as the person in the family who can fix their Wi-Fi or their printers, right? But because I get so excited about the stuff and I talk about them, and it's always been the case. You should do some reviews. You should. So it's always been in the back of my mind, but I never really had the courage to record myself and do videos online. And it was only just during COVID. I'm also a football coach, soccer for those in America, and during COVID, we couldn't train. We couldn't get the kids together. So I started recording videos, teaching them how to do some drills in their garden or even inside of the houses. A little bit like, the guy that does kind of exercises on TV, right? For everyone to get active and stuff. So I did a similar thing, more of an excuse, if I'm honest with you, to use my gear.
Right, yeah.
So I got microphones, I got cameras, I got these tripods,
So is this kind of you testing the waters then a little bit, do you think?
It was, right. At the back of my mind, I'm thinking, if this works out, if I learn enough to, yeah, to be useful, then I'll start a channel. And I uploaded it to YouTube and sent it. And it was really, and they said, oh my gosh, this is really well done. It's really good quality. I was using a decent camera, I had even like slow-mo footage in it. Like, this is just for like under 8 at the time, right? And
They would think it's going to be the typical kind of dad video taken on a shaky phone, and suddenly we're getting this polished professional.
Yeah, it was decent looking things. And then that led into another thing. So maybe I'll start reviewing football gear. So I created a channel. Don't go searching for it. It's still out there. But yeah, reviewing boots, reviewing footballs, reviewing apparel for football. And that's when I thought, okay, I like this, but I don't see myself doing this for a long time. But what I'm really passionate about is tech. And I will start that.
So again, we had a chance to chat before recording, and looking at jumping ahead slightly, looking at the quality of the video that you're making and creating at the moment. I just assumed you would have had a lengthy background in videography and camera work. You're saying pretty much self-taught and fairly recently.
Very, very recently, yeah. I always had a keen eye for photography, but I never really did anything professionally or went to any courses or anything like that. Way back when, like mid-90s, at uni, I did a little bit of work on that, but it wasn't really enough to give me any grounding. A lot of the stuff that I've learned was picked up on YouTube.
On YouTube, exactly, yeah.
Watching the creators that I still watch today, whenever people like Peter Lindgren and Tom Buck, the people that I enjoy watching to learn about audio and video. That's how I kind of started to pick up here and there. And I think, every video, when I watch back my videos, I still pick up things that I wish I turned the lights a different way, or I had the audio.
There's always something. I mean, we do learn as we go along, and I think even in the process of setting up, getting the set right, we like to think we're learning, but 9 out of 10, you still look back and you think, oh, I missed that. I should have done something slightly different.
No, exactly.
We'll talk about your workflow, because as I say, I think it's clearly gone to another level recently. Yeah. But the Gear and Tech channel then, so we were sort of coming through lockdown. You thought the football wasn't sustainable.
No.
This was your passion. And did you have enough time during lockdown then to give this a lot of attention and time? Is that how it worked out for you?
Timing is one of those things, right? It's unless you go full time, you're always going to be competing with family time and work. And it's still the case today. The only difference today from 2 years ago is that I'm in this space where things are pretty much I press record and I'm recording. Whereas previously, I had to tidy up the bedroom and get things out of, everything's on the floor, cables everywhere. So it made it, creatively, it was a lot more difficult. But yeah, so right now the time is still the same. The time available for me to do YouTube is the same, but I get more done because it's easier.
You can walk in and start working and creating.
Yeah.
So, I mean, coming more to modern times, and the channel did fairly well, fairly early on from what I could see, the subs. I mean, as I talk to you now, you're just underneath 40,000 subs. And you said that the last month have been pretty good to you as well, that subs have been coming through. So clearly the channel's going places. And the direction of the videos that you're making and the creative energy behind them is clearly gone in a different direction. Now, is that something that you've cognitively decided to keep the channel fresh, to keep the content fresh? You wanted to do something different?
Yeah, I'm always changing. I think even going from one bedroom in the house to a bigger bedroom in the house was always something in the back of my mind, thinking, this isn't good enough. If what took me to this place is not going to be the same thing that takes me to the next place. So I always had that mentality in other areas as well of life, right, in business. So yeah, it's definitely something that I consciously think I have to keep things fresh. But something that actually I think helped in the last couple of months was me being myself a bit more, because
it's looser.
If I'm honest with you, I script everything. But in recent months, I found that either because I was running out of time or because I was actually quite passionate about some of the stuff I was talking about, I found it easier to kind of ignore the script a little bit and free roll a bit more. Yeah. And from listening to comments and other creators as well, feedback, it's been something that people are actually relating to more, right? So it doesn't feel so sterile and perfectly built. You know, there's failures in the way I speak, in the way I,
yeah, but it's not failures. That's your channel, and people are going to watch. This is something that you and I were chatting about. Is that with YouTube, although we all like to watch a polished, professional, well-crafted video, equally they've got to buy into your character.
Yeah.
And trying to hide away from what you natively are. Okay, so you might be the loudest shouting voice out there,
Right.
but you've got warmth, you've got sincerity. People would feel safe in your company.
Yeah.
And we all have to learn what our strengths are. And clearly what you're doing now is playing to your strengths.
Yeah, and it's something that I'm still learning because there's got to be a balance, right? So of information, because I could go completely off beat sometimes and go complete like comedian style, and that doesn't work. But it does help to add a little bit of what I'm like normally, and it makes the creative process a lot easier as well for me, because I think I can just chat as if I was chatting to a friend or to you here.
Yeah, friend or to me.
yeah, exactly. You know, you gotta buy me dinner first. But I think
on the first date,
it would be interesting to see how things progress, because I'm really enjoying the fact that I can be myself. Because at the very beginning, the first year, maybe year and a half, I was a bit too conscious of the fact that I couldn't, and I have to be. I'm not sounding exciting enough. I'm too laid back. But actually, you know, that's now the mode of the channel. I call it, you know, kind of chilled out kind of style.
I've always liked to think that the people who now watch these podcasts, which is another way of thinking of them, and listen to them, could be creators that are thinking of starting a channel themselves. And one of the things that I know is really tough to get used to is sitting in front of a piece of glass by yourself, talking. It sounds like it should be incredibly simple. Certainly, I underestimated how awkward it is. Even when you're in a lovely studio now by yourself, it still feels bloody awkward sitting there talking to nothing and being yourself.
Absolutely. And at the very beginning, I created a video about a teleprompter and how that made me sort of find it easier to record, and how that helped me sort of lose a little bit of that issue of talking to a camera. And I'm still kind of learning that. But what I find easy is to do something completely different before you record, so that you're not building up the tension and sort of, oh my gosh, I press record, now I've got to speak. You know, so you're kind of anxious to record, and you're not really being relaxed. I find like either calling a friend and having a good old laugh about stuff, or going for a run, doing something completely different, and then press record, and don't be rushed into recording. So sometimes I press record and walk around the room, I fix the lighting or do something like that. And then I sit down, and as I start talking, right? And even though I know in the back of my mind, that footage is not something I'm going to be using, the fact that I started talking kind of gets the flow going. And what you see on YouTube is probably 5 minutes in.
An extension of that. And that's probably, we can see, there has been this definite change in the last, I'd say fairly recent 6 weeks of your output, where you have just become easier and freer. And that's probably, I don't know if this method that you've been working on now, sort of walking around, getting almost warming up, has fitted in with that time frame. But clearly there's been a change to you. And it must just be the confidence that the channel's doing well and people enjoy you. That must help.
It does help. And I think there was a few things that kind of, it's almost like the stars aligned, right? There were good products being launched. I got a good sort of influx of people coming in for my tablet reviews. And those are, if I recorded that video a year ago, you wouldn't tell the difference. It was very kind of deadpan, just talking about what I like and what I don't like about stuff. But then when I think Apple screwed up in a couple of product launches, and I got really excited about it, and running out of time, so I'd rather record something, even if it's not perfect, and just get it out there. So the editing wasn't to my standards, the way I like to edit. I had lots of effects, and I like to spend a lot of time with the edit. With the videos I did well recently, it was just being myself, chatting as if I was down in the pub, talking to a friend. And I think I hit a bit of so it's a combination of the topic being popular, me being passionate about
that comes
that,
through.
and then also timing. I think timing, if I was to kind of hierarchically put these things, timing beats everything. If you post a video, even if it's like a day too early or too late, it can make or break a video.
So let's just sort of metaphorically roll the sleeves up and go through the weeds a little bit. Let's begin to mention the A word, the algorithm word.
Yeah.
Something that we briefly discussed. And you cited videos where you've had 80, 100,000 views. You'll use that same formula with the same kind of script, the same products, and suddenly it'll dip to 20,000.
Yeah.
Now, we all like to think we know something about the algorithm. Do you chase the algorithm, or do you make content that you want to make and you think your channel's viewers, avatars, whatever, want to watch? How do you go about that? Because as you just said, day to way can make a big difference.
Yeah.
But you don't want to just make algorithm-based content, do you?
No, because it's a very easy thing to do, and you eventually you either find yourself kind of in a corner that YouTube nothing else will work, or you find yourself in a creative block because you can't create anything else. You're always kind of having to create this one thing. That and some people actually said to me before, you have to niche down. You're talking across too many things. Trying to niche down a little bit more, and I consciously went against that. People with a lot more experience and bigger channels than me told me this at the very beginning. So you're a bit all over the place. But for me, is what I found recently is that if you've got if you know the calendar of in the tech space anyway,
we kind of know
of what's going on, right? You start building up, and then I know what will work. If I release a video today about an iPad or a Tab S8 Ultra or something like I call like flagship devices, the videos will do well.
You almost guarantee that.
Almost, right? I'm not that arrogant to say that you will definitely get hundreds of thousands, but you definitely do well. On the other hand, I know that if I release a video that is out of season about a product that not many people are searching about, it just won't work. YouTube is very good at putting videos in front of people based on what's trending.
So looking at your channel now then and moving forward, are you going to take the advice of niching down more? Because from what you're saying, you obviously think that the algorithm does rely to a certain degree on a niche so that they can put videos in front of the right viewers. Would that be right?
Yeah, and I think, if you do a video that's done well and you build an audience that comes back for the next video. So if I take the Watch Ultra, the Apple Watch Ultra as an example, I'm pretty much confident that when I release a video coming, so you've heard it first, there's a video coming for my 2 months later or 3 months later review.
What would we do without 6 weeks later than 2 months?
Yeah, exactly.
We all trade on, don't we?
Yeah. I know it will do well because the last, I've only done 2 videos and they both broke the 100K views. So I know there's an audience already in my channel.
Enjoys how you talk about the watch.
Exactly. And I have a perspective on it that is not, I'm not climbing a mountain or whatever. So I bring an element to it that probably, not many people are thinking about. However, that can't be the sole purpose of the channel, right? Otherwise, I'll just have an Apple Watch Ultra channel.
Yeah.
And that will dry
it's
out
die
very
quickly.
Quickly. Yeah. So I don't think I will take that advice, but I will probably not niche down to a specific brand or to a specific thing, but definitely stay within a type of video. So I wouldn't review something like, in the early days, I reviewed a Wi-Fi router, or, I don't think that would work.
I think the rueful smile says it all, that perhaps a router won't make its way to your channel again.
No, exactly. Yeah, I'm sorry if you, I don't know, Netgear, if you want to sponsor the channel, I'm joking. But yeah, no, I think that's it's not something that my audience, I know my audience would not watch. And that is key for any video on YouTube. If your current audience doesn't watch your video, it's not going to get pushed out to more people. That's basically how it works. That could change, right? The algorithm is, at the end of the day, a bit of code that someone is writing. But it's a bit like knowing your audience. If your audience is going to click on that video, and the beauty of having multiple pockets of audience, right? Which is what I've got right now. I have a Galaxy Fold 4 audience as well that I built out of nowhere. Videos do well with that device, again, because coming from an Apple perspective, using something different usually does
You're
well
able to
as
talk
well.
both ways, yeah.
Yeah, and so I know when I do my long-term review for that video, there'll be people who come back for that. And I know at the moment, the way the algorithm works, that because people will come back, the algorithm will push to more people and the audience will grow. That's in a nutshell how I see it right now. So I find it beneficial that I can kind of have options for different things. Even though from a timing perspective and from a coordination perspective, it's really hard. I wish it wasn't the case, but
so part of the reason, apart from the enjoyment and the passion you've got for tech, I would imagine we're both in the same boat, that we looked at this also as being another revenue stream, a possible business. And that's one of the things I really liked about YouTube, was that from the get-go, there was no having to hide behind the fact that this is a business and there are costs attached to it, and that you do make some money. You're not going to get rich quick, but you do make some money from working in this space. So I know that you've become part of various chat groups on WhatsApp and so on, and you said they were really useful to you.
Gosh, yeah.
And now I'm beginning to sort of steer the conversation around to, as the channel grows, and if people are again in this position, the advice that you could give, if a brand comes to you, how do you know what your worth is to them? If they come to you, I'm trying to think, let's say a headphone brand comes to you and say they want to sponsor a video, not just have a paid promotion.
Yeah.
How do you know what you're worth?
It's so tricky, right? And I remember having these conversations early on with people around me, right? Not really all the creators, but thinking, oh my gosh, I got an email from a brand.
Because you're a businessman. So you're used to charging people.
Yeah, exactly. But when it comes to YouTube, I was a total newbie, right? It's complete. I still consider myself, still learning.
Just interrupting you momentarily, very much to do with this,
sure.
Before not putting figures on it. So let's say the first brand that came to you and you were trying to think what to charge. What you ended up charging, was it anything near what you originally thought in your head? Were you way out, too low, too high?
Way too low.
Really?
Yeah, way too low. We as creators, in general, I mean, everyone I speak to is the same. Even people who have much more subscribers than me sometimes, I think, oh gosh, you definitely should be charging more. So I think the first thing for me, I use your points about me running another business. I use that as a guide, right? If I'm taking time I could be earning in my other business, for example, or even if it's my weekend, so well, I would charge that anyway in any other situation, right? So why not? So I try to say that's a starting point for my.
So you're attaching value to your time, full stop.
Exactly.
That's the first,
So I start there. So I've got 3 templates basically for charging people. So it will depend on whether the product fits the channel. So if it's a product that fits, them, brilliant. But if it's a product that I know the product is not gonna do well as a video, then I'll probably charge more, because I will have to work really hard to make the video, more watchable. So I think it's a combination. But at the very beginning, I really didn't know.
Do you remember the first? I'm not going to ask for the brand, but do you remember the first people that came to you?
I do remember. It was a Wi-Fi router, and it was a no-name.
And they found you how then? I'm fascinated. Just through watching a channel, picking you up?
I don't know how they find me. I mean, I think at the moment I get about 8 or 9 emails a day, and they're all similar to those first emails that I've gotten. Maybe once a month I'll get a recognizable brand, and they come through an agency most of the time, not directly. But I also reach out to brands, myself. So if I like their stuff on Instagram or go on Twitter, there's many ways of getting in touch, and you'd be surprised, right? How I've got this thing, right? A bit of an aside, and I'll get back to the original question, but it's something that I just thought out, which is when I get ghosted on Instagram or Twitter, I wait about 2 weeks and I respond just to the ghost emoji to the brand. And I might make a video about this, because the success rate of the ghost emoji is amazing.
Really?
I've said in my
I'm going to make a video tonight about that.
It's great, yeah, because people, most of these people, you got to remember, I'm not like spring chicken, right? I'm in my 40s, but I know
I
that.
wish.
but I know that, amongst the young generation, kind of being ghosted is a thing, and people get quite emotional about it, I guess. I don't know, but they do come back. So, oh my gosh, I didn't mean to ghost you. I said, no, it's fine. If you don't want to work with me,
breaks down the door, yeah.
But it starts the conversation, and I had a desk, kind of sit-stand desk that worked out that way after a ghost emoji. There's an FPV drone in the other room that I need to review. That again was a ghost emoji that got to that point. So yeah, but going back to the original question on the importance of having a community around you. It's I would say it's still today a lifeline. Like sometimes your family or your friends, they won't relate. I mean, it's unlikely that they'll relate to the stuff that you do on YouTube. So for me, it's a great way of releasing pressure as well. Sometimes you're under stress and you can just share stuff. I recorded an entire video without audio. If I talk to my wife about this, she go, I don't know what that means.
Yeah,
so what?
Yeah.
But yeah, so we can share those horror stories amongst friends in a way. So using WhatsApp and Telegram groups and Twitter as well.
Twitter, I've been all over for sure. It works really well in this space. I mean, I've reached out to creators, and I know that you watched when I went over to sit with your friend Patrick.
Yeah.
And I was saying to him then that
that reminds me, are we on mute?
Yeah. Patrick, that was for you. But he was saying, when I was talking to him, that there seems very little bad ego. Clearly there's ego. We sit talking in front of a camera, but you can reach out to people. And on the whole, I found, apart from one person, who I won't mention, an American that was not what I expected at all behind the camera,
right.
Most of them are really, really supportive and behind you. And they can have 100, 200,000 subs. But if you reach out to them in the right way and say, look, I've just watched you, I'd love to have some time with you, how's calendar? Most people are really good. And then from what you're saying now, even turning to a group as a newbie and saying, what should I charge? They're willing to help.
Absolutely. And I'd say, if you're just starting a channel right now, is the priority number one. Get kind of like-minded people around you, even if it's just virtually. Wasp,
if I was Barack, I would have had
it. Bit late. But yeah, just get people around you that are kind of sharing the same experiences. And Twitter is a good start. But then kind of just bring that situation to. I'm gonna have to re-record this because I forgot to put my watch on silent. Okay.
A quick break for the Apple Ultra watch making. It's nice. It is a lovely face on it, by the way, I will say.
Yeah, it's the night mode. It's not night, but I love the red.
It does look good. So having that support around you, and that's part of why I've been trying to get out and actually sit with people, because I'd like to think it's better content, but also it's wonderful for me, because part of what we do is very solo.
Yeah.
You spend a lot of time by yourself and you become used to it. Finally.
Absolutely. And I think that's probably why I think reaching out to people is easier in this context, because let's face it, we're all by ourselves most of the time, especially when they're doing full-time content creation. There's a lot of time spent by themselves. So I think they probably welcome, speaking for myself, I would welcome anyone kind of coming up to me and say, do you want to have a chat about content creation? Because I'd love to, because usually it's just me and the camera, right?
And it's great, as you said, to be able to share that passion, and even better to be able to share that passion one-on-one, face-to-face. Because you can just, obviously we were talking before recording, there's just all sorts of things were coming up, you're comparing notes and finding out stories. It just makes a difference. You're kind of not alone.
Yeah, exactly. And it's, it's surprisingly a well-knit community as well on Twitter and, kind of in the tech space anyway, where we can share. I mean, it's amazing. In most traditional businesses, you wouldn't really say to a almost like a competitor, right? How much do you charge? You wouldn't do that. But in the tech space, it's very open, and I love that. I think it's a refreshing way of working, and because brands, whether we like it or not, they will look at you with and almost put a tag on you based on your subscribers alone. There are a few brands out there that have worked with me from the very early days, before even 5,000 subscribers, and said, would love to work with you. But they are, I can count them on my one hand.
I was just going to ask, do you tend to get repeat work from sponsors?
Yeah, and the trick for me was, especially when you start, and I've used this tactic even recently, where if you want to work with a brand and they're not responding, or they're not, kind of coming back to you, my advice is buy their product and then do a video anyway, at no cost, and then send it to them. So this is what I've created. It would be, be great if you had a look. And I've done that a few times where, I even shouted out in the video. So, we also work with you, but I just bought it as a customer and whatever. So I think there's there's options that you don't need to wait for the brand to come to you all the time. I think you can go to them and, you know, I don't think I've got to that point yet, but it would be nice, right, to say I'm too big to ignore.
Yeah.
But what you can do is be noisy in a good way, sort of make the right noise about the content that the brand would then say, oh, wow, that creator, even though they don't have enough subscribers to be in our banding of sponsorship, they're actually, doing great job. So
does sub count matter to a sponsor?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, I'm aware, I know. So in the community, there's people who, being a content creator, went to work for agencies and stuff. So there's a lot of sharing.
Oh, so they know the inside
well.
story.
Yeah. And I won't mention who they are. We have, in the old days of Clubhouse, the amount of information flowing in those rooms was amazing for me. It obviously then became a bit of a personal branding thing that I don't go to anymore. But at the very beginning, there was a lot of sharing, and those examples of people saying that there's definitely lists of
it's a clear-cut defined
creators, and there's a banding as well, right? So there's nano creators, micro creators, and they all have a certain price. I would say, as a creator, ignore all that. Send the brand what you think your job is worth, but at the same time be realistic, right? Because if you're just starting, then something that I did was produce a few videos about product that I really was passionate about, until to the point where the brand then said, okay, and it wasn't even sponsored, right? It was just sending me things to review. So that was the first layer to eventually now where we discuss sponsorships. But yeah, in terms of getting the price right is tricky, because you're never really gonna get it right the first time. What I would say is start high. Let's be honest.
Can only go one way.
Because if you're doing this as a business and you want this to be a long-term thing, and it's a brand that you really like, don't see it as a one-shot opportunity, right? Eminem. That is, yeah. See this as an opportunity to say, right, it's a long-term thing, and if you start in the right way, then it doesn't. In 2 years down the line, you still be fair for both sides, and and brands get a lot of return business as well, because they will see the value in not just that one video that you did, but in some examples you might get a deal that they can use the footage on their socials and stuff. So there are multiple ways of
that's far-reaching.
Yeah, so YouTube is one stream, right? But that content, you can give access to the brand for them to upload it to the website.
Oh, so I hadn't even thought that. When you're signing these contracts, then do you agree how far as to where they can use your media? I hadn't thought of that.
Even simple things like retweeting a promotional tweet, or
so you sign it, you agree they can do that.
Yeah, or an Instagram post. Some of them actually will come with a proposal already to say that's part of what they're saying. But in my templated answer to response to emails, I say, look, you don't just get a video on YouTube. This is the other additional things that you would get. I'll share my template with you, and feel free to.
Being a business myself, I've got an eye to this becoming a business. And so I wondered how these contracts come through. I'd always imagined do you end up giving too much? By that I mean, say in the video itself, do you give too much energy, too much time for what they would be expecting? I mean, I would put myself in your position and think, as a rookie, I'd probably go over the top and give them way more than they deserve.
Yeah, and I think you have to choose strategically, who you do that for. If it's something that you see it's quite obscure, maybe it's a startup brand that no one has ever heard before, then in that case, maybe just be tactical about it, right? It's about this is going to be a one job thing, but in my proposal, I always include, right, you're always going to get an additional post on Instagram. You're going to get this if you want, right? And if you want to, you can use my footage on your own website, promote products on your website. And a lot of people take that out because it's almost like having a testimonial on their website. There's some conditions, right? If as long as they don't rip the footage completely off YouTube and put it on the website, because that has happened. I had to deal with that. Say, hey, we agreed on a link to the YouTube video.
They were taking a whole. They were just ripping it themselves and putting the video, so there's no links
as
to
if it was their video and
URL back on YouTube. Yeah.
So so that doesn't work. It has to work for both parties long term, right?
Of course.
And I think having a mentality of knowing your price early on is something that I wish someone told me before. So just have a day rate, have a rate for your work. So I came up with that. I mean, and before even 1 year doing YouTube, I came up with a standard template for reaching out to brands. Looking at it now, I'm thinking, brands must have read that. So, oh my gosh, either they thought I was way ahead of it. Does he think he's got 500,000 subscribers? Or they probably thought that's quite a professional way of approaching it and liked it. Some brands still work with me today that actually responded to the very first contract I sent to them over a year ago.
So what's your stance then with the channel on, if we break this down between a sponsored slot or a sponsored video? Now, my own view when I'm watching creators that have got sponsored videos, skeptical because I know that I'm kind of watching a longish commercial in essence, even if I really love that creator and what they represent and stand for. And yes, I can probably learn something about the product. In the position you're now, obviously your channel is growing and that's going to come the way more and more. What's your stance on, if we were to say, I don't know, you're making 10 videos a month, how many of those would you be prepared to be sponsored, fully sponsored videos? Bearing in mind you could earn very well out of that, but equally lose some of the attention of your viewers. How do you square that off?
So I've made a decision this month because I kind of had enough of the sponsored videos, doing great for the financials of the channel, but not doing anything for my audience. And the recent examples I've had are almost like confirmation of what I was thinking already. So I think coming to next year, I'm not going to do any dedicated full videos about sponsored. No. So I will work with brands that will sponsor a video, but in a way that I'm talking about a product that is related to their product. And I will insert something like, hey, by the way,
you could
look at this product. It might be a VPN. I mean, I've never done a VPN sponsor, even though it's the first thing that people do.
Have you done a Squarespace one yet?
Squarespace is coming.
I just knew it. You heard it. I know your site's built on Squarespace, actually, when I was looking at your website.
Yeah, I'm a customer. So it was nice when they reached out. They're coming. And that's next year. But again, I wouldn't spend 10 minutes talking about that product. I mean, because you just won't do anything for the channel. And it's not really, It would be awesome financially, probably. But.
Yeah, so you really have put your money where your mouth is. And if you decided next year, no fully sponsored videos, and I'm assuming they are the ones that pay the best. They must do. It's a whole video about a brand. So
you'd be surprised. Actually, the effort is the same. If not, there's probably more effort in a fully sponsored video. And the return on investment isn't that great.
Really?
Yeah, it isn't that great. Because I've had examples where I did a 2-minute sponsored slot, which is quite a long slot in the video, that paid a lot more than a 10-minute fully sponsored video. So, yeah.
And what's your workflow? We begin to just talk about your workflow now. And the first aspect I wanted to cover was planning. Do you plan ahead, or is it of a Sunday evening, right, I've got to think content this week? There's kind of two camps. Where do you fall?
I'm definitely a planner. I mean, in the other room, there's a whiteboard with the videos that I need to make. And I learned this at the very beginning. At the very beginning, I wasn't. I was very much whatever I felt like. And there were way too many occasions where I sat down, think, okay, I need to record a video this week. And I didn't know what to talk about. And then you end up making videos that are not really, you don't feel, right for it. So some random stuff. In those early days, because I wasn't planning. Now there's a calendar. I know when the product launches are coming. I know when my 1 month, 2 month review about something needs to come up. And then I leave some space in there for accessory videos, apps videos that are kind of a gap filler between product launches. So yeah, I that's how I start. I start to say, right, in the calendar this month, these are the videos that I need to talk about. There will be times in September, I think it happened, where some, Apple or a big, a big announcement will be made, and you have to react quickly,
Yeah.
and it almost becomes a bit of a news video.
Mm.
So I like those as well because they're quick to make and they are topical, so they'll get lots of views. People will be interested, and it's nice to just provide your own viewpoint on those. But yeah, mostly is planned.
And where do you draw your inspiration for your ideas? If you on the whiteboard in the office there, you say you've got a number of videos written down, apart from the 2 6-month reviews and so on. Where do you draw inspiration from?
So it will be mostly around the season, right? So I don't think there's any point talking about, for example, the iPhone accessories for in January, February, because everyone has already bought them. But right now, it would have been the right time to talk about that. So I think there's a level of seasonality that you need to be aware of. I also like new products, right? So sometimes there will be a new camera or a new microphone or something like that. And I don't know who said this, but yeah, there's like 10 videos you make, that you make. Out of those 10, 9 will be for YouTube, 1 will be for yourself. I like that idea. I don't think there's a number to it now, but I always like to leave a list of video in there I like to make. So
I think that was Sarah Dietschy. I seem to remember she mentioned that, didn't she? She had sort of the her videos and then the algorithm videos kind of
and
thing.
I think that's very healthy to have. And I think recently, so I did a video which was just about ProRes as a feature. So I went out and just recorded
2 hours.
It ended up to be 2 minutes total video. But it was just a random video that I liked. I always wanted to make. It was just a bit of a creative outlet, if you like, of, even though all my videos, I try to add a little bit of creativity in there, because it can, if you do the same thing over and over, it can get quite boring. Right?
It can look samey, but again, I guess if you look at a movie director, a movie made by a certain director is always going to have a stamp of him on it. And I guess that's the same in a mini version with what we do. We all have our own ways of either putting things, our own, even the graphics that we use, we tend to have sort of things we refer to and go back to time and again. And that's not always a bad thing, because again, I think part of this YouTube thing is familiarity. People like coming into your world, your space, your studio, and seeing you. We want to spend time with you. And that's where YouTube, I still think, remains unique, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think I need to do a better job at that, because I think, for example, the look and feel of the channel at the moment is not as consistent, throughout. If I look at my page, just scroll through the page, it's really all over the place. So I think I need to do a better job at that, because that, I totally agree. Even the branding, the way things look and feel on your first page on the channel should be familiar, so that next time you release a video, people who watched it before will recognize you. Because sometimes my thumbnails are very much a second thought. I'd love it for that not to be the case. There are videos, maybe 2 out of 10 will be I got the thumbnail even before the video.
I've started doing that now. I'm starting with thumbnails.
It's a great place to start, because it actually drives the writing, because you have to then sell the message that you
exactly that.
Yeah, it does make a lot of sense, rather than making the video and that's right. How do I comprise all of that?
I found it's really helped, because I'll go the exact route that you said. I have the idea, that's germinated. I then create the thumbnail, then script, then shoot. Because once I've created that thumbnail, I kind of know the direction I want the rest of that production of that video to go.
Yeah, I think, I need to do a lot more work on that, because at the moment, there's way too many videos where my week sort of goes, I write at the beginning of the week, something, whenever I've got free time. Hopefully by Thursday, I would have recorded the A-roll. And then if I have time on Friday evenings or Saturday after football coaching and all that, that's when I quickly record B-roll, edit and upload. Yeah. And it's a rush pretty much, every Saturday. And then the thumbnail, as the video is uploading, it's God, I got the thumbnail. I gotta go and produce it. And,
So a couple of other areas I thought we would cover is generically talk about the tech space. There's that conversation. And again, you were talking about seasons. It is seasonal. You will get the same conversation coming up in sort of in November, December. Has the tech space blown out? Is it dead? Has it gone? We'll talk about that. And then also I was going to mention shorts with you and, how you see yourself in that space. Yeah. But first of all, talking about the tech space on YouTube.
Mhm.
Where do you think it stands on it? Looking at it from my point of view, it seems that creators have just now woken up again and aren't being as lazy. They're looking to just be more inventive. And there was too much sitting behind a desk and just doing the same thing time and time and time. And it looks like now there's been a gentle kick up the backside.
Yeah, I think that there's a few things that are happening. I think the vlogging is one thing that is influencing people to get out there and so get out of the desk. Even though I just got a beautiful studio, trying to build it up.
That's lovely.
It does kind of make you a bit too comfy sometimes, right? And I've made a conscious effort to go out and record myself outside, and sometimes using the product outside as well, because it makes a big difference sometimes. You know, if it's something like a smartphone, you know, people care about quality of the call, things, you know, how it looks even outside.
Yeah, whether it's bright enough, whether there's too much wind noise and so on.
So I think I've definitely seen that, and I attribute some of that to Casey Neistat sometimes. You know, he's back.
In love with him.
Maybe that's influencing other people to be more like that. But in the tech space, Peter Lindgren is great, and that way he's got his vlog channel, and big fan of that sort of style, because it does get you closer to the person rather than just being someone, you know, behind a desk. So I think that's, in terms of the tech space, though, I do feel that we have been stagnant for a while in terms of the devices, and it's always a slightly improved version of what we just had. And it was about a year ago, I did a video about this, right? The form factor of tech that we hold is getting old. Right? You know, I'm not a young person, but I would imagine even, you know, they'll be really, really bored with this rectangular pieces of glasses that we hold. So I think it's prime time now for us to move to a different form factor of interacting with tech. You know, I know we've got AR glasses and VR glasses already, but I think it's something like that will probably kick new life into the tech industry, I think. Yeah.
Do you find that your viewing habits, I'm taking it, because when I was speaking with Patrick again, he was saying a lot of creators don't watch YouTube, which I found really surprising. But I'm guessing you are an avid YouTube watcher.
Yeah.
And have your viewing habits changed over?
I watch scammers getting getting done by people who, forgot the name of the channel, Pierogi or whatever. So unrelated to tech, I do go watch tech videos about things that I've already reviewed. So I go back, but for example, there was an iPhone launch happening next week. I guarantee there will be some of these flagship channels like Aaron and MKBHD, right? There will be
embargo launch, yeah.
I will avoid all of those videos. And I never used to. I used to actually watch their videos and almost like get some bits of information from their videos to go into my video. But I found that doesn't, I mean, that helps, you know, and that's kind of the last resort, fine. But I'd rather have my own views. And then, you know, if I forget stuff, that's basically, that's me, right? What you see.
Yeah.
But I avoid watching other
because you don't want the
even
influence.
people who are closer to me. Recently, I stopped watching, because, you know, at the back of your mind, when you're creating your own video, you go, hang on, but so and so said this. I shouldn't contradict them or whatever. So I'd rather just say, look, I haven't watched a single review. This is my personal opinion, and then later I will probably go and compare curiosity point of view, but. I always find it fascinating that either I picked up on the same things, or maybe I did have a different perspective on it.
Yeah, I think the idea of keeping yourself distant, it brings your brand, makes your brand unique, doesn't it? Because you are talking about something as you honestly feel and not influenced by anybody else. And the point you made about the people that are close to you, that's probably even more pertinent, because you will be more heavily influenced by people that you know. Just because.
Oh, exactly, yeah. And it's hard not to be influenced by it. I think something I learned quite young, you know, in my career, was kind of to pick good examples of people that you appreciate, that you enjoy watching, or you enjoy their work, and kind of ignore the stuff that you don't like, right? So kind of put that all together and add your own style to things. I wouldn't say I've got my own style, I mean, it's far from it, but I'm definitely influenced by a lot of other creators. But I always like to add a little bit of myself in there, because is what it's all about, right?
Well, and that leads me on to the shorts because,
Mm.
again, just before we started recording, I know you were saying that shorts, you mentioned a couple of creators that are just so different on those, zany, funny, bring humour into it.
Yeah.
Clearly, you've got a wicked sense of humour. Clearly, there's things that tickle your fancy that you can't really talk about on the main channel. Where do you feel shorts could take you?
So at the moment is a bit of a, I think we're in a transition period, right? Because shorts are now being monetized from next year, so people start getting paid for it. And we just, as a small creator community, noticed that the views on shorts are lower now than they used to be. Used to get, like, as soon as you post it, 15 minutes in and you get thousands of views. That's changing. And I think YouTube is making some changes as we speak to shorts. On the whole, though, I think it's an unavoidable format. People watching YouTube are going to be scrolling through shorts whenever they don't want to watch a long-term review. That's kind of part and parcel of YouTube. I never thought I needed to create a special channel for shorts.
No.
A lot of people did that, and I think that's
Well, they count towards your view count now as well, don't they? So, I mean, I don't see the point of it, because I'm sure they do count towards your views, don't they? And
and initially, I think that was one of the issues. The retention could affect the channel.
Because of nature, they're very short, means that the retention's short. Yeah.
Yeah, and so I think it made a lot of sense to create a separate video. And the other reason was, and that's a reason that I still worry about every single time I upload a short, which is the people who subscribe to my channel subscribed based on a long probably. I don't think I've got shorts that got more than 50 subs, right? And that's a great one. that's kind of, I can count. There's one video that did well on shorts. Most people, the entire community in my channel is built on long term. So if I upload a short, I'm always conscious of the person receiving that notification. And it's a video from Alex. I'm going to click on it, and then it's a short. And the short, I don't know if it has to be very punchy. It has to be, I think it has to be a bit of fun. It can't be too serious, I don't think. Unless, I don't know. I think it's hard for me to do 15 seconds or 30 seconds and make it not entertaining. I think it has to be entertaining in a way. So I think it's here to stay, but I think it's going to be a tricky balance to find, for creators to find on. If you're a long form content creator, how do you insert shorts in that? So for me, it's going to be coming up with like a once a week maybe short. I tried something, I think it was in September, which did really well, which was I batch recorded 5 shorts and then programmed them to upload it. So it took the same effort as it did to record one long form video, which is a lot.
You got 5 videos, yeah.
It was nice because, they were all related. They were all kind of about the same thing. And that makes a difference. What didn't work, and I can tell that because I've experimented a lot with shorts. What doesn't work, and I'm a firm believer that if you're doing this, stop, is repurposing long form content into shorts. Because unless you're a genius and your long form content is very, very engaging, like Mr. Beast style, then you can make short versions of it, great. But in tech, it's hard. Because in a long form video reviewing a bit of tech, you have a lot of time. You have like 2 minutes per section to talk about each feature, maybe.
It's not going to be snappy enough for short, is it?
It's not, and people won't watch it. Yeah, so those don't work. And I had that experience. I even got people to edit my long form videos for a while. Like I outsourced that for a bit. Yeah, and it just didn't work.
Now let's talk editing. You just brought the word up, and you've gone dirty on me. You've gone to Final Cut. Yes. I was convinced I was talking to another Premiere boy, and there's not many of us out there. Sadly, I'm one of the few that still edits on Premiere. But
yeah, I recently let go of Premiere. Right, there was a period of time where I thought I'll just use Final Cut and see what it's like. And I was almost like, there's no way it's going to be better than Premiere. But it turns out, for me, it was a difficult transition because I started on Premiere Pro and I loved using that. I even learned a little bit, through Peter McKinnon videos on those early Peter McKinnon videos, tutorials on, motion graphics and stuff like that. And, it got to a point where I had quite a lot of plugins, quite a really nice workflow. I had auditioned for the audio.
Yeah.
But
you're talking my language.
Yeah.
Audition and Premiere.
yeah, and it
I
was,
feel at home.
it was technically a great workflow. But what I found for me was difficult to manage time-wise. You added a bit more time. And with YouTube, as you find, right, it's going to be can you do more videos in the same time? The more videos you can produce, the better. So reducing, even if it's like 15 minutes that it takes.
So you find that Final Cut's a quicker workflow then?
It's faster. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's a combination of things, right? Because there was the changing software and learning that. And obviously it took time, but it is quicker to edit. And it's just simpler. There are things that, for example, doing J cuts and L cuts in Final Cut is not as easy as it was on Premiere. Premiere is very intuitive for that. But it's doable and it's manageable.
So you're now editing 100% in Final Cut then, are you?
100% in Final Cut, yeah. The word, I don't know if I can, if you're listening to this, you're not going to see this. On my ceiling, there's a fishing line hanging there.
Yeah.
So there's one thing in Final Cut that it's impossible to do, which is to mask very small things like a fishing line against the background. So there's the odd use case where I'll go to Final Cut or even DaVinci to do specific like wire masking, which is a feature that it's hard to do in Final Cut or impossible.
And what cameras are you shooting on in the studio? As A-roll and B-roll cameras?
So my main camera is this one here. Is an A7S III from Sony. My B camera, I don't use it for every video, but most A-roll shots now have a two angles. It's another Sony ZV-E10. Love that thing. It's a perfect camera for starting out creators or vlogging. It's just great. It's a crop sensor, but it's fantastic for that. And I think the reason you got two cameras, I think it helps is retention. I can definitely point to the graph, right? When I started using two cameras, it's such a silly thing, but changing the angle in a video will get people to stay for longer.
It's more dimension, isn't it? That's the thing. You're not looking at the same view the whole time.
Yeah, it's amazing how it works. It's fascinating. I mean, it's obvious when you do it and you see the results. But at the beginning, I was like, come on, the content is the content, why? But yeah, it went from, and this is really bad. I mean, the first year, I don't think I ever got anything above 40% retention on my videos. Even though, I spend a lot of time on B-roll and kind of the content is just, people will fast forward because they've already heard it from somewhere else. So you have to keep it kind of dynamic and changing angles is something that really helps. And and the best videos that I made are the ones where I mix indoor shots with outdoor shots. So having me just walking, sometimes even with my phone. People don't. I never got a comment that said, that those 15 seconds that you recorded there was an iPhone footage. What's wrong with? No one ever said that. So I'm feeling a little bit more liberated. Sometimes if an idea pops into my head, I'll record it. And whether that becomes a short, whether that becomes a session in the video, it's a nice break from just me babbling on about stuff.
It's interesting that you noticed a difference in your retention when you went multicam. I didn't know it made a physical, noticeable difference.
Absolutely. 10% increase. I can pinpoint to for this day is when I started to do multicam videos. It was January this year. My retention went up. I mean, there are other things that I did as well. There are,
of course,
there are videos where I use chapters and the chapters sometimes help. If it's a long video, like 14, 15-minute video, chapters for me is a must because, people will skim through and you got to kind of guide people.
Parts,
So I think a combination of using chapters in those cases, yes, that help. But yeah, conversational style as well is what helps. Sometimes, if you just, in my case, reading for a script that I wrote, because, almost like an article, it doesn't flow as a conversation would. And so in my process recently, I started to leave some gaps in the script.
So you could talk more.
Yeah. So I can free roll, as I said, a little bit more, and just kind of be. And sometimes I'll later in the edit remove it because it didn't go well. But sometimes, even if it's just me either being frustrated with the motorbike that went past, or some stuff that happens that makes it a little bit more natural, right? And it's I think that's definitely helped with retention. And it's not perfect yet. I mean, there's only a few videos where it goes beyond 50%, which is not great. I mean, most videos that are 10 minutes should be getting more than 50% for it to be like a decent video.
And you said that this isn't yet a full-time number for you. Is it close to becoming something you can see as being full-time?
No, it's not. I think, and it's the limitation is time. I am somewhat confident that if I was doing this full-time, the financial benefit would come as well. But it could go like that, right? It's one of those things that I'm not confident enough to say I will stop my other business and do fully YouTube, but I can see it happening. So I gave myself a bit of time. So I ran into the space for 3 years. And that's the time where I'll make a decision at the end of it. So in May 2025 is when I'll go, this has potential to work, and I'll fully dedicate myself to that, or kind of just keep it going, but knowing that it's never going to be a massive thing. But I'm quietly confident that
the seeds are there, aren't they? Clearly, I mean, growth's there. Sponsors are coming.
Yeah, and as of January next year, I've got my first big sponsor name coming in, and I think that's a sign of good things, right, to come. So hopefully, I can.
It gives you a little bit of security as well, I guess. You've got a big sponsor coming through.
Yeah, that would be amazing, because this is, I do enjoy what I do outside of YouTube, but not as much as YouTube. I mean, this is so much more fun and more what I like to do.
Yeah.
Whereas my other job is what pays the bills.
It resonates. I know I kind of almost tut when I get my other work come through. I think, got to go and do that before I can almost go to play. Before I can go and do the stuff that I really want to be getting on with. And it's crazy because, as you say, the other stuff's paying more.
Yeah.
But it's not so much where the passion is anymore.
No, exactly. And I think we all kind of always look for reasons that why not to, right? But I think it's not impossible, right? I think with YouTube, the opportunity is so big, right? Because all it takes is one video.
Yeah.
Right. And I've got a great example of, we were mentioning shorts, right? There's this one creator called Raul Pacheco, who we interviewed for another podcast. He very much, was 1 minute, he had 5,000 subscribers, not going much, and didn't know much what to do. He did one video about a Lego product that blew up, like Mr. Beast style, 100 million views or whatever. Yeah. And now he's got himself now 1 million subscribers. And it's
all
crazy
in one Lego brick, basically.
Yeah, obviously, he did a lot more videos since then, but that one video changed everything. And I always believe that every video you make has that potential. And that's not something you see a lot in business, in other businesses.
No, it's a unique business. I mean, we are essentially working for somebody else, as in YouTube is the paymaster, but you still very much feel your own boss, and you need to be the sort of person that's motivated, can get up in the morning, drive yourself, because solitude can lead to laziness easily.
Yeah.
And complacency. So you do need to be motivated, have good ideas, drive yourself to make the next video. And as you say, it's always that next video, because we wrap up in a week and then we start all over again the following week. New ideas, new ways of shooting, new blah, blah, blah. It goes on and on, doesn't it?
And I'm a firm believer that, you become what you do.
Yeah.
Right? And I won't lie to you. At the very beginning, for a long time, there's this imposter syndrome going on, right? Where you think, I'm not, this is not who I am, but if you do something for long enough and you follow some of the best practices, right? And you kind of start yourself getting better at the craft. You become it. So I would say today, I am confident I can say I'm a content creator, because I know end to end what it takes to do that. I'm a firm believer that anyone can become it, even though you might be just starting to go, actually, I can be it. So you just have to do more of it. Yeah,
and that's the thing. There's never a better time than today now to start a channel, because the amount of mistakes you make along the way in those early days will only pave for a better future.
Yeah.
They're
yeah.
all for the good, aren't they?
Absolutely. And it's good to be self-aware, right? That if you make 10 videos and they're all tank, don't despair, right? I think I've made over 200 videos now, and I still have videos that tank. So it's one of those things that you just need to every video improve a little bit more.
Make something better.
Yeah. Sometimes you'll be able to say, actually, for this particular video, I don't need to go full creative mode. I just need to be very precise in what I'm saying. Other videos you go, actually, this one is what I call flagship videos. I have to nail everything, how I sound, how I look,
The lighting,
the product shots and everything. And so that there's, I love the fact that it's never finished. Everywhere I look in the studio and every time I watch my own video back, I go, I need a new lens, or yes, I need to improve the angle a little bit. I need to change this and that. So it fascinates me that it's a constant thing. Going back to the beginning of the conversation, right? There will be changes in the channel. Absolutely.
Well, I was going to have two questions before I let you get on with your day, and that was going to be one of them, the future of the channel. We've talked about where tech space is currently.
Yeah.
We've talked about some of the changes you've made, whether actually getting out of the studio walls or using the multicam. What do you see the future, say, in the next 12 months being of the channel? And have you got an idea of how you'd like it to go?
Yeah, I think for the next, so for this year, I've got already planned videos that I need to make by the end of the year. But for next year, in January, February is a good time to kind of take stock and rethink, which is when I decided to have a studio, right? It was like in January this year, after realizing that my bedroom was too small. So I think next year will be the same. So I'll probably take a more kind of prescriptive approach to how I create content. Not allow myself to be in a situation where I committed to videos that I don't want to make. I think so that will be a clear direction in the channel. So I'll make videos that work for the channel, and and sponsors obviously is a great point, because they do play an important part of the channel. Otherwise I can't run it as a business. But the way I will introduce sponsors in the videos will be different to how I've done so far. Again, more prescriptive. And the other thing I'm thinking is to create things that are getting me closer to my community, because I love the interaction I get in the comment section. And I knew this day would come, and it's a nice problem to have, where I don't have enough time to respond to every single comment anymore. There was a point up until earlier this year that was possible, and I never left like a single comment unanswered. But that is now, unfortunately, because I do love that interaction. I don't just say thumbs up, right? I just go in and comment and answer the question, and maybe sometimes even ask a question, because viewers, there's so many videos that I made actually were based on those comments. And so what I want to do from next year is to allow a space for me to get closer to my community. And that might be through either a kind of vlog style channel, maybe a vlog style access. I haven't thought it through yet, but it's just, I want to create something that allows people. Yeah, some people will come to the channel for a single product and they get what they wanted, they'll never come back. And that's life, right? That's how it works. They got what they wanted, they got the content, they answered their question, they've gone. A lot of people come back and they stay, for you. And I think for those people, I think it would be nice to, have a, because in every video, right, you've got like 8-10 minutes to talk about a product. You're not really getting closer. You're not really. And I think
you turn up, do the job kind of thing, and then it's.
Yeah. And I really want, so building a community is super important for me. And I want to do that either, even if it's just an article that I write to them about the stuff that I've done and share that with the community, or like I said, a kind of vlog style, a bit more relaxed, or even if it's just, I had a goal this year of doing at least 6 live streams, and I think I'm close to that. And again, those live streams did really well from a conversational perspective. No script, just let's talk about, I think it was a MacBook Air, the one I did recently. Fantastic. I love the fact that people came on and they just asked me questions and
joined in
off the hook. I know. Yeah, I love that. And I think for next year I'll do more of that.
And you mentioned a few moments ago that you've been this side. You've got a podcast called which you record with Patrick.
It's called The Tube Life. Yeah, it's on everywhere, on Spotify and Apple, whatever. So yeah, we need to kick that, start that again.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, we have 2 episodes coming out. One with Brian Coble, which is a great graphic designer. I think he's on an iPad, but it's not iPad, but tablet designer. It's fun. I mean, his channels are multi-million subscribers. He's a great guy. But yeah, we've had people like Sagi from YouTube, and also Peter Lindgren and Tom Buck. Some really good creators out there. And yeah, we love. I mean, podcast is such a great thing. I mean, especially when it's in person. This is the first time actually I'm doing a
Oh, good.
Good.
I love podcasts.
Yeah.
Conversation. I've always loved it. I enjoy watching them and listening to them now. I was listening to podcasts on the way here today.
Yeah.
And if I could make a complete channel out of this, I would. Well, I have got several channels, but if I could do this, only these, I would. But of course, the weakness in that business plan is I'm reliant on guests giving me dates to record. And it's never easy. There's a lot of planning goes in. Finding guests and finding interesting guests and people with different stories to tell. But if I had my way, that's what I'd do full time.
Yeah, no, I love it as well. I think I started doing at the very beginning, again, is one of the things that you learn the hard way. Recorded, it was like an hour long conversation. It was online, right, with people. I would have guests, but online. And I called it the review of the month. What happened in tech this month? It was a great conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. Plenty to talk about.
Great to come in and talk. And you can still find those videos on my channel. But the retention is awful, right? Because people watching live, great. They were contributing with comments. And Patrick and I actually found that ourselves last year when we tried the Tube Live with creators online and actually live streaming as well at the same time. It just came, we were just too frazzled with, do we talk about the stuff that we want to talk about? Do we listen to the comments? It was just too much, right? So I think we having this, or we can record, have a chat. If we want to remove stuff later, that's fine, but there's no one like right now listening to it live. So it's a little bit more relaxed, and I love this.
Yeah, I find great company. And also I learn a lot. One thing I have done though with podcasts, I've been a little bit more select. I used to listen to a lot of how-to in the tube space. And I found that actually harming me because I was almost slavishly following their suggestions to the harm of listening to my own heart. And so I was thinking, well, they've just said I should be trying to do this. I was constantly chasing the next dragon while I'm just trying to establish my own way forward. Clearly you can learn from people, but I find I learn a lot more from talking to you than listening to a podcast from one of the big creators out there saying how, this is the way to grow your channel. They can be good to a point, but equally harmful.
It's very superficial, right? And I think, I wish there was a lot more people talking about, the nitty gritty of.
I mean, with those other channels, the big ones you were just mentioning, of course, at the back end of it, they've got a product to sell, and that's their courses, that's their editing. They want you to spend money with them. Whereas hopefully what we can bring to creators watching this is some truth.
Yeah.
2 guys talking about what it takes to actually make content, upload content, the pitfalls. And hopefully that's what's come out of it today. Because, I mean, your channel is clearly going places. You've got this lovely studio now as well. You're enjoying what you're doing.
Thank you.
You're looking so relaxed and happy in front of the camera now.
Yeah, thank you. I definitely want this to be a success, and I
know
it's a journey, and I'm pretty sure that there's great things to come. But
well, I'll be leaving links to everywhere because I know you're on Medium as well. You're another writer. Love it on Medium.
Not as much as I'd love, but I do sometimes post it there.
So on Medium, and you've got the Tube Life, the podcast, obviously the main channel here. More to come from that. There's plenty of places. You've got your website as well. Over on Twitter, I'll leave links to everywhere. Instagram, you're on.
Yeah, I'm on Twitter every day. Probably where you find me more easily. But on YouTube, of course.
I think that's how we first hooked up, wasn't it, on Twitter? I'm sure it was.
Yeah.
Twitter's a great place to find people.
It is. Yeah, I don't know where that's going to go because that's going to.
Briefly before we wrap up then, what's your, that's the hot topic here, isn't it? In fact, everyone's talking about, I haven't, whether I'm not a deep enough user of Twitter, I'm on it every day like you, I haven't noticed at my lowly level of a massive change yet, but everyone's saying doomsday's about to come.
No, I think it's a perception thing. It's to me, it's the same as it was.
It is, right? It is the same.
It's the same as it was. I think
The same people you follow and read are still there, saying the same things.
Yeah, exactly. There's definitely a perception going on, right? Which is human, right? I am excited though for the promises that are being made around
that it could become more of a creator's
content
platform.
creation. I think, if we have the right approach to content creation on Twitter, it'd be amazing. I mean, of course, it remains to be seen whether that will be a viable stream for creators. But it would be nice to have something else, right? Well, because YouTube, I think YouTube is fantastic, but it would be. I'm curious to know what Twitter could bring to the table.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I know there's, just because one person's bought it, everyone's coming out. And people clearly have dislikes to Elon. Some people love him, some people hate him, but that is clearly fueling a lot of this discussion about Twitter at the moment. It still remains, certainly for what we do and for reporters, the best source out there.
Yeah. Yeah. And the fact that you can approach anybody, whether you're going to get a response or not, right? It's fascinating to me.
Well, in fact, I had a problem with Adobe on the weekend. I know you'll probably laugh as who doesn't have a problem with Adobe, but I reached out to him on a DM, and within 5 minutes on a Saturday afternoon at 4:00, I had an answer back, and not just a bot, somebody actually looking at my account and saying, "Oh, well, that can be news on such and such a day."
Amazing. Yeah.
It just works so well.
Yeah, it's one of those things. I do like where they're going as well with avoiding kind of fake accounts. The charging of $8, I think, is not here or there, because that's probably what's going to fund content creation. But I do like the fact that we're trying to clean up a little bit, because there's so much noise out there. There's people, a lot of trolls. Let's face it, right? That come in and just say nasty things for no reason. And it'd be nice to kind of get a level playing field. That everyone that you talk to, is a real person behind it, not like someone who's with a fake account or a bot.
So what's next for you today then? As I leave you and I turn tails and drive down the road, what are you going to be creating today?
I'm actually going to record my next video. So I've got a script ready to go. It's about the watch. I don't think it will go this week, probably next week. I've got a video that is already edited for the A-roll.
For this week.
For this week. And this week is going to be almost like a thought piece, right? There's not a product per se that I'm reviewing. Every few months I like to do something. It's just me talking about something that my opinions on something. And this one is going to be Android versus iOS. Mainly because everything that I've seen before on this subject.
There we go, a live siren. We got away with it almost.
It was an hour, right? Without any.
We did well.
Believe
it or not, we're actually quite near a main road. Beyond that window, there's a fairly busy road. This studio does remarkably well for not being too noisy.
Yeah. There's a motorbike that fired up earlier as well. Though we've been quite lucky that it didn't go. So
so you're going to be busy editing for the rest of the day then? Yeah.
So there'll be some B-roll recording whilst it's still light. I like I've cleaned up this table to do some B-roll stuff in there. Yeah, so that'll be it for me today. I should be home, I don't know, about 5:00 for the evening.
I'll keep you no longer. And if you've made it to the end of the podcast, I think probably before the podcast goes up or around it, there's going to be a quick studio tour with Alex as well. If you've got just a few moments for me.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm just going to follow him around with my phone, have a little look behind the scenes so you can see what happens when Alex is sitting, editing, recording. You get a better idea of what's going on. So if you haven't checked that video out, it'll be over on the main channel, not on the podcast channel you're on now. But Alex, thank you for your time today. It's been brilliant. I'm really glad we got together, sat down and had a chat.
Loved every moment of it.
Fantastic. I'll come back sometime soon. Alex, thanks so much indeed.